The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
Breaking humanity, one soul at a time. This is the World You Don't Know radio show with your host, Nick O'Connell.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're very welcome along to this week's edition of The World You Don't Know with myself, Mick O'Connell. I do have a guest lined up. He won't be coming on till 9:15 though. I've got Mr. Tom Ryan coming on, who's a hypnotherapist. Now, as part of my series of interviews in relation to the Open Minds Conference, the second one, part 2, that's taking place in Dooley's Hotel in Waterford on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th of March next. Tom is one of the guest speakers at that conference, so I'm going to have him on tonight. Now, I've had a good few speakers over the last few weeks, from Mark Devlin to Max Egan, and others I can't even think of the names of them off the top of my head, but I've had a good few guests on over the last few weeks, interviewing them, and these are all guests who are going to be appearing at this conference in March, so it's going to be an absolutely fantastic conference. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it down there myself due to family commitments that weekend. I might make the Sunday, hopefully I will, and get to see one or two of the guests. Nick Collerstrom, now I know he's going to be talking there on the Sunday, and I have interviewed Nick Collerstrom about false flag terror attacks, in particular the 7/7 attacks and 9/11. He's quite well read on both of those subjects, so I'm going to be talking to Tom in 15 minutes time, but in the meantime I'm going to play some music. Now, I've come across a musician over the weekend, a guy called Flat Earth Man. Now look, I know I've had people on here talking about Flat Earth before. I'm not a flat earther, so get that out of your head. I'm neither a globe earther either, because I've never been up in space, so I don't know what we live on. All I do know is we live in a petri dish and we're in an experiment or something like that. But anyway, I discovered this guy called Conspiracy Music Guru. He's an English guy, but you'd think, listening to him singing, he was actually from America, but he's not. And I tell you, this guy is absolutely super funny. He really is. So I'm going to play a song called No Photographs of Earth, and everything he says in this song is actually true. Believe it or not, but don't take my word for it, do your own research. Anyway, have a listen to this. This is funny. I will be back in about 5 minutes, but I want you to have a listen to this, and I might play another one before I get Tom on, but have a listen to this and I'll talk to you very shortly.
Told me to do a search online. Search for photos of Earth, he said. This shit will blow your mind. So I opened up the Google and I looked for photos of Earth. Well, a lot of photos came up. He said, click on the first. He said, that's the famous blue marble that everybody's seen. We've seen this photo 1,000 times upon our TV screen. Well, let me tell you something about that famous shot. Not a photo at all, man. It was made in Photoshop. Cause there ain't no photographs of Earth. Somebody tell me why. They're all just Photoshop cartoons. They're all just CGI. No photographic proof of a globe. No, none at all. Why the hell can't no one take a photo of this ball? He was goddamn right. That shit did blow my mind. Because I thought the blue marble was a photo all this time. Well, don't you think that's strange? He said suspiciously. Now, the fact that it ain't a photo seems pretty weird to me. I mean, the most important photo that man could ever take? This huge, iconic image turns out to be a fake? Well, I couldn't quite believe it, man. I was pretty shocked. I needed further proof that this photo's photoshopped. He said, look up Robert Simon. He made that cartoon ball. He's the guy you should research. He works for NASA and all. He openly admits that it's all just artistry. He said, and I quote, it's photoshopped, but it has to be. There ain't no photographs of Earth. Somebody tell me why. They're all just Photoshop cartoons. They're all just CGI. No photographic proof of a globe. No, none at all. Why the hell can't no one take a photo of this ball? Yep, Every photo of the Earth is artist trickery. All the photos on Google, man, are as fake can be. Download all the photos and put them side by side. Compare all the continents, they're each a different size. Compare all the colors, each globe a different shade. If all of these were photos, man, they should look the goddamn same. Where's the continuity? There's none. No, none at all. All that NASA gives us is a bunch of cartoon balls, cause there ain't no photographs of us. Somebody tell me why. They're all just Photoshop cartoons, they're all just CGI. No photographic proof of a clone, no, none at all. Why the hell can't no one take a photo of this ball? Now we're supposed to have this telescope, right, that's flying past the stars, taking beautiful photos of Jupiter and Mars. Well, I've got a small suggestion, NASA. Here's something you could do. Point that thing at planet Earth and take a shot or two, because there should be goddamn thousands of photos of where we live. But Hubble ain't taken one. That's suspicious, don't you think? We got all these fancy pictures of spinning galaxies, but not one goddamn photo of the Earth for us to see. Cause there ain't no photographs of us. Somebody tell me why. They're all just Photoshop cartoons, they're all just CGI. No photographic proof of a clone, no, none at all. Why the hell can't no one take a photo of this ball? There ain't no photographs of us. Somebody tell me why. They're all just Photoshop cartoons, they're all just CGI. No photographic proof of a clone, no, none at all. Why the hell can't no one take a photo of this ball?
Now, ladies and gentlemen, that was Conspiracy Music Guru and a song called No Photographs of Earth. And, you know, do a bit of research. There are no photographs of Earth. And I've looked this up, but can't find any genuine ones. All these photos that you see all over Google of the Earth, most famously, I suppose, the Blue Marble, they're all CGI. And the guy who created it actually said it has to be done that way because no one's got far enough away from the planet to turn around and take a photograph. Now, one thing you hear people saying in relation to this is, well, they have Hubble telescope up there allegedly. Why don't they just turn the bloody thing around and take a photograph of it? And that'll shut everybody up once and for all. But to date, they haven't done that. So, you know, I mean, get Elon Musk to send a car up into space allegedly, and I use the word allegedly quite loosely because I don't believe they actually sent the car up into space, and I'll tell you why. One thing they removed from that car, which I found quite strange, was the rear view mirror, and I think that was so you didn't see the fourth wall, if you know what I mean. But I could be wrong. Anyway, I'm going to play another one of these songs. I have got a guest, as I said, coming up at 9:15. Now, he hasn't come on to Skype yet, but I don't expect him to come on to Skype until 9:15. So hopefully he will be on now in a couple of minutes. So I'm going to play another song, and this is one called Puppet Show. So enjoy this, folks, and I'll be back in a few minutes.
Something about the space station. It's only really there in your imagination. That thing ain't real. It's science fiction. It's there to feed your space addiction. Those astronauts are not in space. It's written all over their stupid face. See, I can spot a lie from 100 miles, and I can spot a fraud from the way they smile. Didn't you learn nothing from the fake moon? Missing that puppet show from President Nixon. Well, listen up, they're doing it again, it seems. Check out the harnesses and green screens. I used to work a lot in film and TV. I know a bit about the television trickery to create the illusion that you're somewhere that you're not. A green screen is what you're gonna use a lot. Or if you wear a harness and attach it to the ceiling, the illusion that you're floating is what they'll be believing. All you're watching is a puppet show, yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the human race. So let me tell you something about a zero-G plane. This thing flies up and then down again. Some weird stuff happens if you're on the inside. You start to float as the plane takes a dive. Simply add an actor that's trained to deceive, and you got yourself an astronaut, or so you believe. Plane flies up and that's everyone's cue. Then action, we got some deceiving to do. Plane flies down and then everyone knows to start the ISS live show. Floating in a plane with zero-G, but you only see astronauts on your TV. All you're watching is a puppet show, yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the human race. Well, another thing I noticed when I looked at these fools, they're filming spacewalks in buoyancy pools. NASA's gonna tell you that it's just for training, to practice for space station maintaining. Well, I thought about that, but if that's the case, then why the hell can I see bubbles in space? Take a hard look at the next spacewalk. Tell me if you can see bubbles at all. Open your eyes, man, I'll bet you a quarter. Those spacewalks are filmed underwater. I can see space bubbles everywhere. Hey, NASA, how the hell did those get there? All you're watching is a puppet show, yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the human race. So when you see an astronaut aboard the ISS, take another look at your TV set. They're pretty good at faking, so you gotta look close. Pay some attention to the way the actor floats. If you ask me, that ain't zero gravity, but Hollywood effects that I see on my TV. Take a good look at the whole damn thing. These lying bastards are just puppets on a string. It's all a big science fiction puppet show. The game's up, NASHoles, cause we all know. Thanks for the show, NASA. It's been a blast. Now take your fake station and shove it up your... All you're watching is a puppet show, yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the whole human race. All you're watching is a puppet show, yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're just actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the whole human race, man. All you're watching is a puppet show, yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the whole human race. All you're watching is a puppet show, yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're just actors, of course.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, that was Conspiracy Music Guy and a puppet show. Catchy little tunes, I have to say, but he has a very valid message, if you will, to get out there to the people. My guest hasn't come on to Skype yet, so I'm going to just waffle on here for a few minutes. Hopefully he will come on. Now, he did say he would not be available until 9:15 So I will give them the benefit of the doubt. I do have some ads to play anyway, so what I will do is, while I'm waiting for them, I'm going to play the ads, and I'll have a little chat with you when I come back as well from the ads. Give me a look here now, I'll get these queued up. Yeah, as I said, I'm going to play the ads now, and hopefully Tom will be back by the time the ads are over. But if he's not, he's not. We'll see what happens anyway, folks. But either way, we'll still have a show, and I might play another one or two of those tunes anyway. We'll see what happens. So I'll talk to you all very shortly.
Broadcasting to Lucan, this is Liffey Sound, 96.4 FM.
Hiya Sandra, how's the new kitchen extension coming along? I'm dying to see it.
Hi Marie, the building work is finished, the kitchen is in and the tilers are working away, hopefully all done this week.
I'd love to get my kitchen done, it's well overdue. No mon, no fun.
Are you a member of Lucan Credit Union? That's where we got the loan. We had a decision very quickly and the loan was transferred straight into our bank account.
I have an account, but I never think of the credit union for a loan.
I wouldn't have survived without it over the years. We've had loans for cars, holidays and when I had my bathrooms done a few years ago.
Oh, I'll drop into them today. Is it still near the Ulster Bank?
It is, and they have another office near the Lord Lucan pub. Very handy.
Lucan District Credit Union. Here when you need us.
Don't miss Eddie Graham's sports session this Tuesday as he takes you through all your local sports news on Liffey Sound 96.4 FM.
Hello, my name is Brian Hughes and I'd like to invite you all to join me here on Liffey Sound 96.4 FM every Thursday evening from 6 to 7. I'll be playing some of the very best in traditional and folk music on my programme Ceol Galore. I'll be featuring some of the best new releases and we'll have interviews with musicians and singers who were involved in local, national and indeed worldwide projects. So until then, from myself, Brian Hughes, Gunyairi and Talat, agus Slán go fóill.
You're listening to Liffey Sound on 96.4 FM.
Now, folks, you're very welcome back. Short ad break there. My guest hasn't come on yet, but as I said, this could happen. He was due to come on at 9:15, but if he does come on, I obviously will, get him on. But I'm going to waffle here for a few minutes anyway. As I said, Tom is going to be one of the guest speakers at the Open Minds Conference in Dooley's Hotel in Waterford. Now, can't get you on Skype. Let me see. I have a message here from Tom, actually, from my guest, saying he can't get me on Skype. I've sent a request. Well, I haven't got a request. I haven't received any request on Skype. But what I'll do is I'm going to play another song and I'm going to try and organise getting Tom onto Skype. I'm going to send him my username and hopefully he'll accept and we'll get him back on. So here's another tune by Conspiracy Music Guru, and this is another song called Don't Believe in Gravity. Now, I'm not saying gravity exists, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. This guy seems to think it doesn't, but here's a song called Don't Believe in Gravity. Be back in a couple of minutes.
It was so cool. I had a teacher that knew it all. She taught me how water could stick to a ball, how buildings stick to the underside of a ball that spins like a carousel ride. Man, it all sounded crazy to me, but I love learning about gravity. I couldn't wait to tell my dad about the amazing day that I had. He picked me up, I was bursting with pride. He opened up the door and I jumped inside. He smiled at me and said, "How was your day?" I said, "Dad, I was blown away. I learned about this magical thing, but it's kinda got my head in the spin. I learned about this Newton guy. When an apple fell on his head, he surmised that there must be a force that's pulling it down, and everything's being sucked to the ground. A force that sticks us all to this ball, the people, the buildings, the oceans and all. So it was written in history, Newton had discovered gravity." Well, he just looked at me and said, "Don't believe in gravity. Don't believe in fantasy. Don't
to the kids.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, that was the Flat Earth Man again, and his little thing called Don't Believe in Gravity. The reason I'm not playing the whole song is because I have my guest lined up, just as scheduled. So I'm going to go straight to Tom. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening, Mick.
Have you loud and clear. Listen, Tom, thanks very much for coming on. I know it was a little short notice and you have a busy schedule as it is this evening, so I really appreciate you coming on tonight. Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Now, we spoke earlier on briefly on the phone, and my first question to you, Tom, is where is the mind? And we'll take it from there.
Okay, well, the mind is everywhere, because a lot of people are under the impression that the mind is inside your head.
Well, isn't that what we were brought up to believe? That, you know, your own individual mind is inside your own head and nowhere else.
You were brought up to believe in Santa Claus too.
I still do, Tom. So go on, you were saying?
Well, the mind is everywhere. Now, the interesting thing about the mind is, if it's everywhere, then it's interacting through the same space as every other mind.
Mm-hmm.
So all minds are simultaneously in the same place. So it would be quite correct to say there's only one mind.
Well, I mean, Bill Hicks said that, didn't he?
Experiences of that mind.
Didn't Bill Hicks say that we are all one consciousness having subjective experiences?
He did indeed, yeah.
So, and I know exactly what he meant by that. I get that.
Well, I call that one mind God, if you like.
Yeah.
And we're miniature expressions of that, or individual expressions of it. Now, if we are, then the mind is infinite. And if the mind is infinite, then we can do amazing and extraordinary and fantastic things. And that explains all psychic experiences.
Now, the thing about psychic experiences, a lot of people think that's nincompoop and bunkum, but I mean, I've had a couple of strange occurrences in my life.
They're a little bit like the Flat Earth Society. They think the mind is the brain.
Mm.
And while they think that, then it's impossible for them to conceive anything else. So they have to debunk what they can't perceive.
Yeah. So what do you think is, like, so at the upper echelons of the power structure, do you think they know this, and that's why humanity is so easily manipulated into going along with all this crap that's going on?
Of course they know that, and they've known it for aeons. But they have fed off us a different version. For example, if you go back a few hundred years, we had this version of the world which just incorporated the Mediterranean and all that was round it. Well, 1,000 years more.
Mm.
Now we have a globe, but there are still idiots that claim there's a flat earth there. You know, if the earth was flat, the cats would knock everything off anyway.
The which?
The cats would knock everything off.
Oh, yeah, because they would do that they do it on tables. But, I mean, Tom, I've been playing a couple of songs there about Flat Earth by a guy called Conspiracy Music Guru, just for the crack now I was playing them. But essentially, none of us really do know whether the Earth is flat or a globe, because we can't believe anything that mainstream media or NASA or academia are telling us, because they bullshit about so many other things. How can you believe anything they say?
Well, I've travelled around the world by plane, and I've never come across an end, and it fit the global model at all times.
Right.
That's the only explanation I have. Now, if it was flat and if there was this tip over point or wall or something around it or mountains around it, somewhere, somehow, somebody would have twigged it.
But there's two schools of thought. Now, we had a guy on here well over a year ago called Mark Sargent. I'm not sure if you're aware of him. He's an American flat earther, but his theory is that we live on this flat saucer-shaped thing, and there's a dome over us, and it's an enclosed world, it's an enclosed system. And then you've got other people then like Eric Dubé, who's another American living in Thailand, and he's a big flat earther, but his theory is that we live on an infinite plane, and beyond the South Pole, what he calls the ring that surrounds the flat earth, beyond that then there's continents and all that beyond that, and the powers that be know about all these places, but we will never know of them. So
wouldn't it be just nice if that was true?
Well, it would be, but...
But I don't know. I just can't accept the flat earth thing at all. From my own experience of traveling the world, there doesn't seem to be any evidence whatsoever of a flat earth. There seems to be quite a lot of evidence of a global earth. For example, as you travel around the world and as you go from night into day, you can see it where you're heading towards dawn at all times, where the earth is being hit by the sun, if you like, and where the other half is dark. And as you come around, you can see the line from an aeroplane where that happens. That would be if the Earth was flat, then the sun would be shining on the whole flat surface.
So what is it, Tom, about the human psyche that this flat earth nonsense, if you want to call it that, has caught on so much on the internet? And, to be honest with you, the flat earth, along with the likes of the Mandela effect and all, like, they're diluting the truth movement. There's a lot of good works that is going on in the truth movement. People talking about sovereignty and how to, solve problems with the banks and stuff like that, and, rogue governments and whatnot. But now you've got all this other stuff that it's thrown into the mix, and there seems to be a big division now amongst the truth movement.
Well, it's a distraction as opposed to a division. It's a deliberate distraction to get people away from what we perceive as reality, the real things that are happening. People have been pitched out of their homes by crooked banks.
I mean, we had a thing in the paper there today.
Politicians not doing anything to support them in this institution they call the Dáil, which is not the Dáil.
Yeah, the Royal Oireachtas.
And then the crooked judiciary, which is completely corrupt and crooked.
I mean, even in the papers there today, I was reading that 2 major banks in this country are due to sell off something in the region of 5 billion worth of mortgages to vulture funds. And they've been allowed to do this.
Well, I'm wondering, are the vulture funds very stupid, or are they getting it for next to nothing? Or do the banks actually secretly own those vulture funds in the first place?
Well, that's the thing. That's a thought I had myself. Now, who owns these vulture funds?
Yeah.
It would make sense for the banks to own them when you think about it,
If they felt they were good debts, if you like, or whatever, and that they could collect them, they wouldn't be selling them. They'd be collecting the money themselves. Why sell it off for a discount when you can collect all of it yourself?
Yeah. Unless they're selling it off to themselves.
Well, that's what I'm thinking,
Drawing up new contracts then to extract that money from the people that they've just sold the mortgages on. But
if we could change our minds sufficiently, we could change all that.
So what do you think that, humanity itself needs to do? Like you were saying yourself that, the mind is not inside individual people's heads, that it's out there, it's everywhere, it's just one mind. How can we manipulate that mind, if you will?
First of all, we need to connect with more of the mind. We're working on what we call a beta brainwave pattern. That's a fight or flight response. That's a response to threats. That's a response to keep us alive in a crisis. And that's the thinking pattern. And the TV and all of the other media, especially the kind of music they play, as well as the movies and things, are designed to keep us in that kind of space. And the stresses that they create for us and the slave way of living they create will keep us in that state of mind. However, if we move just a little bit away from that into alpha, and it's a simple learning to relax process. You can be taught it in a few minutes. But if a person learns that, they're into the next level, and they find peace where they never found it before. I get all these people coming to me, I have sleeping problems. They have a discotheque going on inside their head. No wonder they can't sleep. So I shut off the disco and they sleep like babies. It's dead easy to do. People have phobias. They're dead easy to shut off. People have anxiety. Dead easy to shut off. People have all kinds of habit patterns that are dead easy to shut off. People have belief systems that are poppycock, worse than the flat earth thing.
I've seen you putting posts up. Now, I was talking to Trevor Evers there recently. I was recently diagnosed, Tom, with high blood pressure. And, myself and Trevor were having a chat. He was saying, you should eat healthier and get more exercise and give up the smoking and, all these things. And he was saying, if you want help giving up the smoking, I can help you. But he also mentioned your name and says, Tom Ryan could help you also. But I'd seen a few of your posts where you were talking about, smoking, how easy it is to actually get off cigarettes if you do it properly, use the mind to get off them. And
it's effortless if you do it right.
But it struck a chord with me because...
Sorry?
What struck a chord with me was when you look at all the advertising for the likes of Nicorette and all that, and these patches and stuff like that, when you're watching these ads on television, they're reinforcing, I think, into your mind that it's damn near impossible to give up smoking without their help.
Of course they are. And what do? They put nicotine in to get you off nicotine. Now, anybody with half a mind would realise that's stark raving madness.
Yeah, I mean, it's like giving a heroin addict heroin to get off heroin.
Yeah, it's manipulation. It's keeping people in a place where they're easy to control. And if people are easy to control, then the elite, if we like to call them that or whatever they are, then they can have the world as their oyster, and the rest of us are mere mortal slaves or whatever.
And you know, as I said, you know, the mind is so easily manipulated. What can we do, Tom, to combat this? What do people need to do to combat it?
Well, I'm looking at people going off studying yoga every day. Now, I have no problem with yoga. It's very good exercise, but it doesn't enlighten the mind. And I was speaking to an Indian doctor that came from India and grew up in an environment of yoga. And he said, if yoga gave you enlightenment, the monkeys would be enlightened.
Because they're always are.
Yeah, but you see, yoga doesn't give you enlightenment, but thousands upon thousands of people are doing it. And it's wonderful for the body. I have no question about that. Why won't they exercise their mind a little bit? Why won't they? I will put classes on anytime, anywhere for people very cheaply if they want to learn how to communicate with more of their mind, how to be in control of their mind, because you either control your mind or it controls you. And if it controls you, you'll find there's somebody manipulating the it that controls you. So the tail is wagging the dog. And if others are controlling you, they're not going to give you the leading roles. They're going to give you the bit parts. And if you get the bit parts, you'll be always a slave.
I mean, I've always maintained, Tom, that, you know, most people, you know, go through life thinking with their minds, you know, and, you know, their mind has been moulded.
They're not thinking with their minds, Mick.
No, I think you think for your mind.
They don't get beyond the very basic part of their brain. They have a little shutter business going on in their brain that's like a gramophone, playing the same old record all the time.
Yeah. But I think we have the ability, Tom. I think we have the ability to think for our minds, like to tell our minds, this is what I want.
We can do that. There's many ways to do it. But you need to be in the same frequency as the powerful part of the mind that you want to communicate with that will do that. And you've got to learn to go into that frequency. It's the very basis of the beginning of hypnosis. It's called the alpha brainwave pattern. Everybody can do it without exception. And if they want to go to deeper levels, they can do that. But everybody can learn to do it. Everybody did it, in fact, naturally, up to the age of 4 or 5. Then they went into school and it was drummed out of them.
Yeah. I mean, I read a quote there the other day, and it was the first time I've ever actually seen this remark. And what it said was, and this is how easily the mind is manipulated, if we were to start from tomorrow, sending our children to school at 6 months old, and it was teachers who taught them to walk, and the quote went further than to say, within a generation, most people would believe that the only way you could learn how to walk was by going to school.
Worse than that, most people wouldn't be able to walk at all.
Yeah, well, the Irish schools are not to go by, I suppose. We'd all be cripples.
Schools are anything to go by, but even other schools are worse than the Irish schools. They're all pathetic. The whole education system worldwide is designed to indoctrinate, not to educate. Yeah. Because the best way to keep people down is keep them stupid and indoctrinated. Keep them worried, keep them anxious, keep the clutter going on inside their head, and keep the fear-based. And once you've got that, it's very easy to manipulate people.
Yeah, one thing I've always noticed about schools now, and there's a great talk on TED Talks. I'm not sure if you ever watched TED Talks, Tom.
I don't listen to them at all, because anything that's any good, they ban it.
Right, well, there's one guy who was on it now, and he was quite controversial. It was a guy called Ken Robinson. And he'd done a half-an-hour lecture where he was detailing how school stifles creativity, and he outlined how they do it. And he was right, they do. You get any child that goes into a school and they're creative, they pull that creativity out of them. Don't get me wrong, there are some teachers now who are young enough to see what's going on, and they know the manipulation that's going on. They're trying to buck the system, but unfortunately they're held to a curriculum, and there's not a lot they can do.
There's not much they can do. But think about it, before you ever went to school, you learned to speak a language. You probably learned to speak 2 languages.
Yeah.
You didn't learn 2 languages after you got to school.
Yeah, I did. I never learned any language in school.
You see, you learn naturally before you go to school. And when they start teaching you, you stop learning. Because the process that is used is not appropriate for learning. For example, there was a Professor Lazanov, I told you about him before, I think. He was able to teach 1,000 new words per day in a new language with a 97% retention rate. He could teach fluency in a complete language in less than a week. We can't teach Irish in a lifetime. He did that by getting into the certain part of the mind, by presenting information in a certain way. That information is available to everybody.
And how did he do it, Tom?
Like headless chickens, doing the same old crap that they've always done and getting the same garbage results.
And what kind of a method was he using? Like, what was he doing that other teachers don't do?
He was getting them into an alpha brainwave pattern for a start. Then he was getting them to breathe in a certain way. Then he did an induction, a hypnotic type induction. It was basic hypnosis, if you like. And then he presented the information visually and auditory at the same time, because we're taught to learn language, for example, auditorily. Language isn't auditor. We speak language auditory. We speak it through our mouth, but we don't learn it that way. And that's the big mistake. You think of a baby in a cot, and Mama says, "Hi, Johnny." Now, Johnny looks up at Mama to make sense of that. So he's making sense of it visually. And every other word he says or he hears or anything that's going on, he looks up and he makes sense of it visually. So Lazarov was teaching them with visual to make sense of it and then to express it auditorily. And it's very simple. And yet they don't want to know and they don't want to learn because it would upset their apple carts and people would learn too quickly.
So, you know, I went to school, Tom, like many other Irish children. Now, the one thing about me was I wasn't born in this country, so I wasn't required in school. Unlike today, I wasn't required to actually learn how to speak Irish. But I had a bit of an interest in it. But the teachers that were trying to teach us Irish, these were absolute. The only word I can describe them as is animals. You know, they had absolutely no interest in the children whatsoever. You know, if you didn't get something right, you got to clatter into the side of the head for it. So we didn't want to learn the language, Tom. Do you think that was deliberate on their part, that they didn't want to teach us that language?
Well, every time I came across them doing it, except for one, there was one exception, but all the rest of them were doing it that way. And I don't know whether it was deliberate or whether they're that kind of an ignoramus, or I think maybe they're totally frustrated because what they were taught in college as a method of teaching language doesn't work. So they were getting terribly, terribly, terribly frustrated because what they did didn't work.
Right.
You see, there's no such thing as a learning problem. There are only teaching problems.
Yeah, I mean, I've always maintained that myself, Tom. You know, a teacher's sole function is to get what's in their head into the child's head. And if they can't do that, they should be maybe doing something else that's more suited to their...
And having said that, I'd like to invite everybody to do a little bit of learning for themselves by coming to the Open Minds Conference in Waterford for 3 days. It'll be absolutely fantastic. Great speakers, great subjects. Everything is covered there. And it'll be the most enlightening conference in Ireland this year, as it was last year. Yeah. Or probably any year.
Yeah, last year was a huge success. Now, I really enjoyed last year. There was, including yourself, there was some absolutely fantastic speakers, and the reception I got from the audience were just completely taken aback by everything they'd learned. Don't get me wrong, there was a few people who were there, and you know, you were preaching to the converted because they already knew a lot of the stuff that was going on. But there was a good bunch of people there who were new to all of this information, and you know, I seen it for myself, Tom, as someone who wasn't new to the information. To see the reaction on their faces, it was quite something to see.
It was absolutely a wonderful audience, and afterwards most people converged down in the bar and they kept on talking about these things and kept on questioning each other and learning, and there was no end to the curiosity and the desire to learn. It was absolutely fantastic. I imagine that if that group gathered together and there was no conference, it would still be a fantastic experience because there was such a fabulous, curious mix of people from all different kinds of walks of life with all kinds of experiences. And they all wanted to learn. And they had beautiful open minds. No wonder it's called the Open Mind Conference. Beautiful open minds to learn and to perceive and to understand something new.
Yeah.
So I would like to congratulate Trevor in dreaming up the idea in the first place. Yeah. And then going to all the work he did to put it together.
They are. I mean, as you know, Tom, I've been promoting these conferences for the last couple of years and giving Trevor and his crew, and I won't leave his crew out either. I mean, there's a great bunch of people. They set up their Facebook page, Awaken a Word in South East Ireland, less than 2 years ago, and look what they've achieved in less than 2 years. Absolutely amazing.
It's incredible.
You know,
and I hope it goes from strength to strength. And listen, everybody should be there. They should be there in their thousands.
Yeah, without a doubt. You're right there. They should be. Well, listen,
and
Tom.
It's so inexpensive.
I need to go to an ad break, so do you mind hanging on for a couple of minutes? So just,
I'd be delighted to.
Lovely. I'll be gone less than 2 minutes, Tom. Folks, we'll be back in 2 minutes with Tom Ryan. Talk to you very shortly.
www.liffysoundfm.ie. Listen online. Community radio at its best.
Join us every weekday for Lucan Live from 3 until 4. Join Nathan Walsh, Maria Murphy, Brendan Hackett for Lucan Live, Lucan's premium talk show, every day from 3 until 4 on Liffey Sound 96.4 FM.
Have you taken our advice and explored the many attractions in our lovely Liffey Valley? There's so much to enjoy in the Liffey Valley. Lovely parks, riverside walks, historic houses, water sports, children's play areas and much, much more. The Liffey Valley Park Alliance continues its work for the preservation of this marvellous amenity and its picturesque landscapes. You can play your part by using its various facilities. If you have not already done so, start now. You won't regret it.
Danger, danger!
If sore necks, ringing in your ears and mosh pits are your thing, check out High Voltage with me, Dave Darcy, for all things rock, metal and punk. Every Monday evening from 7 to 9 on Liffey Sound 96.4 FM.
Danger, danger! High voltage! Bring the terrors and lead with cheers.
Tune in every Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. for Ultrasounds on Liffey Sound 96.4 FM or www.liffeysoundfm.ie.
Local programs, local presenters, local news. Tune to Liffey Sound 96.4 FM.
Now, folks, you're very welcome back. The text number is 087 062 7138. That's 087 062 7138. Now, I'm going to go back to Tom. Tom, you're still with me, aren't you?
I'm here, delighted to talk to you.
Lovely. Now, Tom, you just mentioned before the break there the Open Minds Conference. Now, you're going to be speaking at that conference. What's the subject matter of your talk this year?
Well, the subject matter is the mind. Let me just give you a little example that I only found out about yesterday. I was speaking to a researcher from a Polish university, and they were going into a hospital, and they had a box with all kind of fancy dials on the outside, nothing inside except a bulb, a 200-watt ordinary bulb. And they were getting people with cancer. They were shining this bulb on them, and they were telling them, and they had them well prepared, oh, this is the most wonderful thing, this is the ultimate thing, this is frequency that will cure cancer. And about 75% of them had cured the cancer with a 200-watt bulb. It had nothing to do with the bulb, but what it did is it switched on the healing process within their own mind.
Because they believed you were getting well.
Because it's our belief systems that has it switched off, and they gave them a new belief system to switch it on. And it cured 75% of the cancers there and then. That's better than any medical system.
Do you think our minds are that powerful, Tom, that we can actually have an effect on the physical world just by the power of our mind?
Absolutely. There's a video, anybody can look at it on YouTube, of some doctors in China curing a woman. She had a tumor the size of a football almost, and in 3 minutes it vanished and disappeared completely. They show that on the video with 3 doctors simply chanting something. I don't know what they were chanting, but it was the power of their minds and the power of her mind in harmony, and they melted the tumor. The mind is infinitely powerful. I mean, when you think of the mind, it interacts with all other minds. There's only the one mind, really, and if they're all working together, how powerful is that?
Yeah. And I mean, John Lennon said this. I mean, I'm often reminded of the quote by John Lennon. If you want peace, all you have to do is think about it. Now, he was talking to the world as a whole, not just to one individual.
He was, and that was wonderful.
And that's exactly what he meant. If you want world peace, everybody needs to start thinking about world peace right now. And another thing that he qualified that with was, if you're anti-war, you might as well be pro-war, because if all you're thinking about is war, that's exactly what you're going to get.
That's exactly what you're going to get.
You know, and it was a very, very good point that he made.
And he was absolutely accurate in that. No wonder they shot him.
Yeah. I mean, it's mad, isn't it, when these gurus come along, they tend to wipe them out.
The genuine, yeah. There's a lot of fraudulent ones out there, no problem. And they promote them and help them and support them. And eventually, when they get fed up, they might expose them. But they let them go for the long run, because they're there to manipulate and use and abuse people.
Yeah.
And we're in a world, basically, where a small percentage of whoever are manipulating, using and abusing the rest of humanity. And we have a thing called corporate feudalism now, where the corporations are taking over and turning us back into a feudal society where they have control of everything. And the governments are losing more and more control to the corporations. And this is ridiculous, because what they called democracy really no longer exists, because the governments do whatever the corporations tell them rather than what they have promised to the people they will do.
And it's getting more and more like that in this world. Tom, I seen a lecture there years and years ago by a Scottish guy, a cartoonist, a guy called Grant Morrison, and he gave this lecture back in 1999, which is not far off 20 years ago now. And he said, he was talking about corporatism and stuff like that, and he said, and I quote, "If we're not careful, we're all going to end up living in McDonald's."
It's pretty close.
And I think he hit the nail on the head with that quote.
It's spot on, yeah. But you said it there through the John Lennon quote of yours. If you want to change things, in fact, if you want to change the entire world, you start with yourself.
Yeah.
Not by thinking of all the things that are wrong, but by thinking and focusing on all the things that can be and will be right if you and all others do it.
Yeah.
And it starts with one person. Mahatma Gandhi freed India with the power of the mind. Never forget that.
Yeah, he did as well, yeah.
He didn't focus on British imperialism. He focused on freedom for the Indian people.
And he achieved it as well, to a certain degree anyway.
There's an old expression, anything the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. That came from Napoleon Hill in a book he wrote in 1938. This is not new, and yet people still haven't woken up. What does it take to wake them up? Open your mind to potential possibilities. The thing that's blocking you is your belief systems. They were imposed on you. Nobody was born with a belief.
Well, that's very true, Tom. Nobody is born with a belief.
You believe precludes everything else that opposes it, so therefore it's a limitation.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I love most about kid logic. When you listen to some kids and they come up with their logic, like, I'd be blown away by some kids. Especially, I have a little son now and he's quite intelligent. And, sometimes his logic, like, you look at him and say, did he just say what I thought he just said, Like, some of the stuff that he comes out with, like, it's quite amazing. And that is because, I mean, don't get me wrong, he is going to school now. He's 5 years old. But he still has his own mind, so to speak, and I allow that, I mean, sometimes he can be very cheeky, but...
Because the bloody school and the system will try to knock it out of him. Because they want conformity and mediocrity.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with it. There's no place for true genius. Everybody's born a genius, really.
Well, I believe that, Tom, yeah.
Limitations and belief systems are embedded into people. And then they get all these concepts that they're lesser than others, that they're not as good as this or not as good as that. They are. It's rubbish that to tell them. Because when you do deep hypnosis with people, you can achieve miracles. I mean, one girl came in to me on a wheelchair. She was on a wheelchair, I would say mainly because they told her she was disabled. Her balance was gone due to a stroke.
Right.
But I hypnotized her and she got up and walked out. Now, that was not a miracle. That was the power of her mind that was allowed to work in the way it should have been working all the time, except for the indoctrination of the disability that was dumped on her.
I mean, I suppose, and that would have been said to her when she, at a time of crisis, I suppose, when her mind was at its most malleable.
Yes, it would, yeah. The same applies to stroke victims. The mind will rewire itself after a stroke. Within 6 months, a person, even if 90% of the brain is completely destroyed, there's still enough neural pathways to have complete normal function. However, the trauma of the experience of the stroke causes all kinds of problems. Within 6 months, that will right itself, given the opportunity to do so. However, during that period of time, they get into the belief system and the habit pattern of the disability, and they'll stay with that for the rest of their life unless it's taken out.
Yeah,
I've taken it out of many people, and all these, like one person couldn't speak, and we get him back the power of speech because there was nothing wrong with his speech except the belief system instilled by a stupid medical profession.
Telling them that you're never going to talk again.
He couldn't even stand up or walk. I got him back to work within 6 weeks. He couldn't talk or walk. I mean, there was actually something in this morning's paper saying that, if people have strokes and brain damage, that we will soon learn how to we will soon learn how to rewire the brain so that they can function again. I've been doing that for 20 bloody years. When will they? I don't know what they're playing at.
And that's using hypnosis, Tom, is it?
It's using hypnosis and a few other things like neuro-linguistic programming and a process I call myself called Total Mind Dynamics. That's what I call the website.
Right.
And I include exercises, breathing exercises as well with that, and sometimes, if necessary, nutrition. In other words, I'm holistic in the sense that I will do whatever it takes to get a result.
And the thing is,
I
though,
will usually get a result. I will know before I start if I'm not going to get a result, and I will not work with a client unless I'm pretty certain of a result.
And do you have many clients that you'd have to turn away, Tom, because, you know, maybe they're not in the right frame of mind, or...
About 1 to 2%. But I do tests before I start with them. And you know something? They're usually ones with little or no real problems. They might have a sleeping problem or an anxiety problem or something like that. There'll never be a person in a wheelchair or a person with a stroke or a thing like that, because if a person is desperate enough, they're going to cooperate with me. Yeah. The only one I can't work with is the one who won't cooperate. And the only one who won't cooperate is one with such a big ego that he's not going to control my mind. I'm not going to let him control my mind. I don't control anybody's mind. I just open their mind to their own true potential. I get them to parts of their mind that they've never explored. I get them to parts of their creativity within that they have never even been aware of existed. So I'm empowering them. I'm not taking any power away. I'm not controlling anything. I'm empowering people.
Right.
But you get 1 or 2% with these big egos, and they think everybody's trying to control them. And you see, people like that, usually, they're out of control on the inside. And if you find people manipulating and controlling people, they're compensating for their own inner lack of control.
See, do you think, no, don't get me wrong, I've never, not that I'm aware of anyway, I've never been hypnotised as far as I know. Maybe someone hypnotised me one day, and that's why I'm doing a radio show. They told me I was a DJ. But, you know, when you look at TV programmes, you know, the likes of Paul McKenna and all these other hypnotists, these TV hypnotists or TV evangelists, whatever you want to call them.
Paul is a wonderful hypnotist.
I'm not saying he's not now, but what I'm saying is one thing that I've gotten from these shows is a lot of people might be fearful to go to a genuine hypnotist like yourself or like Trevor or something like that, for fear of when they get home they're going to turn into Elvis Presley and stay that way. Do you know what I mean?
Listen, if I could turn into Elvis Presley and make his kind of money, I'd be after a hypnotist in the morning. But anyway, that's just a joke. A lot of people come to me and they tell me I'm terrified, but they're still here. Now, the response I give them to that is I say, don't worry, you'll be twice as terrified in a moment. And there's a specific reason I say that. Because when they were children, they went to the doctor with their mammy.
Yeah.
And he rubbed their arm, and he had a big bloody syringe in his other hand. And he rubbed a bit of whatever fluid on the arm. And he said, this won't hurt. And then he hurt the bloody hell out of the poor little fellow. So they were always getting lying messages from the authority figures like the doctors who were telling them this won't hurt. And it always did. And the dentist, oh, this won't hurt. And they're screaming blue murder. So if I say to them, oh, no, you have nothing to be afraid of, they'll get twice as afraid. But if I say to them, don't worry, you'll be twice as terrified in a moment, they start laughing. It releases the attention, and then we can have fun.
Yeah.
And it is a fun experience. Everybody relaxes and enjoy it, and they say, my God, I wish I'd have experienced this before. It's better than smoking or drinking or any other kind of a trip. It's the ultimate trip, a trip of the mind.
But when you get someone off smoking, say, for instance, Tom, do you give them another habit then? I don't mean an unhealthy one, like a healthy habit to focus on rather than smoking.
Okay, there's a theory that says you shouldn't live in empty space, but I don't live in empty space. First of all, smoking has been introduced over a period of time to them by what I would call a miasma. It's like a virus in a computer. It's parasitic in nature. Now, if you take a virus out of a computer, you don't have to replace it with something else. You don't have to put another program in. Neither do you have to deal with that with the mind. But I always do some motivational work with people anyway, that if you like, you could say it was to replace it. Now, a lot of people, when they give up smoking themselves, they replace the packet of cigarettes for the fridge. And the next thing is they're getting heavier and fatter and fatter and fatter. Because they're not quitting, they're transferring.
Yeah, they're still addicted to something.
Yeah, and they have to satisfy that. But when you kill and get rid of the addiction or the habit or whatever it is, I don't like to put labels on it, when that's gone, you don't need to replace it. I do, but you don't need to. And they won't be raiding the fridge because they will become like they smoked. And they didn't need to raid the fridge then, and they don't need to raid the fridge now.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, Tom, when you think about it, you know.
It's common sense, really. Yeah. You see, we're living in a world where there's no common sense anymore.
Yeah, the whole world it has gone a bit bloody nuts, all right. I'll say that without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, especially the last 3 years, and I'm including Donald Trump in that as well. But it's just mad. It's like we're living in a bloody cartoon show. It really has gone nuts.
It is a cartoon show. I mean, the president tweeting nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay, he's better than Hillary Clinton. She would have started World War III.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Her, but that doesn't make him any particular good, you know.
He is a bit of fun, though. I'll say that. He's livened up the news now, and I'll give him that now, you know.
Laugh at him,
you know, but, and he really has. Listen, Tom, I'm coming towards the end of the show, so I want to give you an opportunity to plug your talk at the conference. So, do you want to remind the listeners again what it is you're going to be talking about and what they can expect from your talk at the show?
I want them to open their minds to the point that they kind of blow their minds. Now, I'll be on at 16:30 to 17:45 on day 2, Saturday. And it's called The Truth About the Human Mind. And then I'm going to tell them a big secret. There's no such thing as a human.
Right.
There's a man, there's a woman. And I'll explain to them why. But I'm not going to go into that now. We don't have time.
Okay.
And once they recognize the man or the woman, they begin to discover their true potential. And then, I want to leave everybody a better person leaving that place. I want to leave everybody a happier person. I want to leave everybody a person exploring the mind and their true potential that will go to better places in life. And there's other fantastic speakers there as well. I mean, there's a lineup that's absolutely fantastic. After me, then there's Max Egan.
Max Egan, yeah, great guest,
I think it's Australia. And he's talking about, it fits in beautifully after mine. It's called Looking Behind the Veil. And then later on, there's shamanic drumming, and there's music and dance. There's everything. Yeah. It's a fantastic.
It's great. And Dooley's Hotel is an absolutely fantastic venue for this as well. I mean, the way the bar is set out and all, the crack you have in there is absolutely 90, as they like to say, you know.
I would. It's a festival of mind. Really,
it is, yeah. That's exactly what it is. It's like a festival of open minds.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And I'm looking. I won't actually make it down for your talk, unfortunately, Tom. But I will be down on the Sunday. Hopefully, I'm going to come down very early on the Sunday morning and catch a few of the speakers on the Sunday. But I won't be able to get down due to family commitments a couple of days before.
These things have to be done.
But
Don't
that's
worry,
it, you know.
We'll see you anyway. And
but I'll be there in spirit anyway, Tom, as always. You know, so
yeah,
I wish you the best of luck with your own
2,
speech.
3 and 4.
Huh?
It's March the 2nd, 3rd and 4th.
March the 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Dooley's Hotel, Waterford, and you'll be speaking on the Saturday from 5:30 till. 4:30 till 5:45, I believe. Isn't that right? And then Max Egan is up after you then. Yes. And Max's talk is going to be absolutely great. And I think Max's ideal follow-up to what you talk about, Tom, because you'll be talking about sovereignty and stuff like that. And once people start getting all of that, then they'll want to know what's going on, and that's where Max can step in and let them know what's really going on.
They fit beautifully in
so
together.
It does. It fits in very well. Well, listen, Tom, thanks very much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
And I want to invite all your listeners to come there. It'll be fantastic.
Definitely.
I look forward to seeing you all.
It should be an absolute blast and an absolutely great weekend. And fair play to Trevor and all his team down there in Waterford. They're going to put on an absolutely fantastic show. Well, Tom, listen, until next time, you take care and I'll talk to you very soon.
Thanks, Mick.
No problem, Tom. You're more than welcome. Talk to you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Tom Ryan, hypnotist. You can check out his website, totalminddynamics.com, and you can check out the openmindsconference.com website for more information on other speakers at the Open Minds Conference, which is taking place on March the 2nd, 3rd and 4th this year, next month, a couple of weeks away, and that should be an absolute blast. There's still tickets available through Eventbrite, but if you go on to the openmindsconference.com website, there's plenty of information on there, and you can check out the Facebook page as well. And that's Trevor Evers and all the gang from Awaken Aware in South East Ireland, an absolutely fantastic bunch of people putting this together. To think that they only started the Facebook page 2 years ago, and here we are 2 conferences later. I mean, the future looks very, very bright for these people. It really does. Anyway, folks, this has been The World You Don't Know, and remember, as I always say in my show, the world is full of great people, and if you can't find one, be one. Talk to you all again soon.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
Breaking humanity, one soul at a time. This is The World You Don't Know radio show with your host, Nick O'Connell.